Welcome to the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. I want you to do me a big favor before you check out this clip. I want you to hit the like button. I want you to throw in a comment and make sure you're a subscriber to this channel. And then I want you to share this video with your friends. Help us defeat the algorithm. And then if you like this content and you appreciate this content, please head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show and support the show. That is how we actually get funded to be able to do this. So we thank you very much for being here. And now enjoy the clip.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rains on the track when we unite and spit. This isn't A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rains on the track when we unite.
Hey, now it's the Mike and Jay. Yeah, he is. He's great. He's great. Sting. Let's talk about Sting because there's been this knock on. There's been a knock on Sting throughout his whole career that Sting is not a draw because whenever he took over as the WCW champion, business was down, and then he was in TNA all those years, and TNA never sold any tickets. And apparently that's all Sting's fault, but they're about to sell out the Greensboro Coliseum for Sting's farewell match. Can everybody just eat shit now about Sting not being a draw, or are they just going to say, oh, it's a one-time deal?
Mike, what was the number one WCW pay-per-view, the top-selling WCW pay-per-view of all time?
WCW Starrcade 97, Hogan Sting.
That would be correct. So I don't want to hear that talk because it's negative talk. And I've said this till the cows come home. The WCW booking matters, right? Booking matters, and WCW didn't have a competent booker. Well, probably until Kevin Sullivan, realistically speaking. Like they couldn't draw. Like they tripped over their own feet trying to draw stuff. So Sting was like the only like level force in that company for years. He was like the rock that the company was like could like withstand when everything was down. Sting was always there. And TNA, like I said, TNA was never designed to draw. Like they ran the Impact Zone. They only like put the show on the road a handful of times. They didn't have the infrastructure to like legitimately run. Right? It just wasn't. It wasn't what people wanted it to be. Right? It was a TV show, and that's what they treated it as. Sting was a player on a TV show who commanded a high salary, deservedly so. He's Sting.
Yeah. So we're pretty excited about this. I'm really looking forward to his final match. There have not been any rumors as to who it could be, but I'm still thinking Samoa Joe. I know we talked about that a couple weeks ago, but originally it was Darby, but I don't think they could trust Darby to stay healthy. So I'm thinking Samoa Joe.
Well, Darby's going to go climb Mount Everest and might die. My kid asked today if there's going to be an avalanche, if Darby will try to surf the avalanche because he's been watching like ridiculous movies and stuff like that. And I'm like thinking like, no, he can't do that. But in my head, I'm like, he might try. Like I could see him like thinking he could see him thinking he could do that. So I don't know if you books it was, we're both on the Samoa Joe, like for the title. We both think that's how Sting should go out. If that's not a possibility, what do you do? In Greensboro.
Well, yeah, in Greensboro, I think they're gonna want to do a tag match, and I would avoid that. I want to see Sting have his final match, like for the World Championship. That's what I'm thinking. So if we can't get Samoa Joe, we keep hearing that MJF may end up taking some time off because he's got all these injuries. But the other option, I could see MJF talking his way into that match and defending his title against Sting and beating Sting in Greensboro. I could see him just wanting to do that because he's AEW's top guy. So of course he would want to do that. Chris Jericho comes to mind. I know that everybody would want Sting to put over somebody young. Samoa Joe wouldn't fit that bill, but they do have the history. But we've never seen Chris Jericho versus Sting, so I think that would be cool, kind of like a legends matchup. So people say whatever they want about Chris Jericho. I bet he has a good match with Sting. I bet he does. Yeah, right?
I bet Jericho.
And honestly, Sting could win that match too. Like he didn't have to. Like there's no rule that says you have to lose on your way out. He could beat Jericho.
I think Sting is going to want to lose on his way out.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's just the way his brain operates. And I'll throw one at you. I'd like to see Swerve Strickland.
There you go. Yeah, I could be down with that. Yeah. I think, I have not watched Dynamite yet. It's on my
It's pretty
DVR. I'll
good.
be watching it. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Pretty good.
the last month has been awesome. Like, I have not been really keeping up with Collision too much, just matches here and there, but I've been watching every episode of Dynamite, and I would say since they started the tournament, everything's been great. So, good on them. But yeah, I think Swerve is like, out of everybody on AEW, like Swerve is the only guy that I see that has like kind of momentum that's ready to break through some type of ceiling, right? Like I just see it in him. He is the guy that I
think so
feel
too.
like can be the next big star for them. And
No, I'm
if they
with
want
you.
to do it, but here's the problem though, JD, is I think that he does it as a babyface, and I think that I think that, if they booked him against Sting, they'd want him to be the heel. But I think the big money is in Swerve as a babyface.
I do. I get where you're coming from, but he's still a heel right now, which was reinforced on the show tonight. Here's why I think it can work is because with Nana and the Embassy, right? Because with Sting right now, let's not forget he's 64. He's not working a traditional main event style match, which is why I question if they're not going to go with Joe, because like I think he needs bells and whistles. And I think with the Embassy, with Brian freaking Cage specifically, and Darby, and I'm sure you could get some other folks, Hangman involved, I'm sure you could make it a clusterfuck. But because all the clusterfucks that involve Sting in this company have been really good. So I think that if you went with Sting and then Swerve, and then at the end, maybe you could do a little, not like a double term, but maybe you can get Sting to endorse him a little bit and start pushing into that babyface role for him, for Swerve Strickland. Like, I think if I were them, I would be pushing in that direction right now. I'm going to get a text from John Muse telling me it's a terrible idea in about 36 hours. I'm going to get a text saying, you're dumb. So, and I'm going to laugh about it. But I don't know. That's kind of what I would like to see happen in Greensboro.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good options. And it's going to be really interesting. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Either way, I mean, Sting sold the place out, so going to be a big show.
Yeah.
And
competition starting to get thick. It's the click, so I hope you watch your A game.